Good evening.
Just center your energy.
Here at UCM,
By the lighting of this candle, we come together as one heart, one mind, as souls together as one in unity. In the presence and experiencing the coming together of each one of us as presence of all that is divine. We call upon that which each of us holds as truth. Divine light, source, the creator and the creation, for the time and space that we're inhabiting in this moment. Not only this place in which we appear to be sitting, but in the time and space we know of deep inside as our hearts and our minds. As above as so below, may we open ourselves more and more to that light, to that which is who we really are, the essence that is our character and is our calling, to receive more and more of our best selves, with the willingness and the wisdom that abides for each one of us. And so it is, and so it shall be. It is done.
for the time and space that we're inhabiting in this moment.
Great.
Not only this place and we appear to be sitting, but in the time and space we know of deep inside
Good evening,
our heart
everyone.
and our mind.
The reading is 1 Corinthians, Lansing Bible, the Aramaic translation. Love never fails. For prophecy shall cease, tongues shall be silenced, and the knowledge will be nothing. For we know partially, and we know prophecy partially. Now we see as in a mirror darkly, but then face to face. Now I shall know, even as also I am known. For there are these three things that endure: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
The reading is 1 Corinthians 1:5.
So, do any of you remember when you were a child?
For prophecy shall cease,
Did any of you ever play the whispering game?
and the knowledge will be nothing.
You know what I'm talking about.
Partially,
Everybody sits in a circle and one person whispers to the next person and the next person whispers to the next one and so on.
but then face to face.
What happens?
Now I know in part,
And the message changes. The message gets a little distorted, doesn't it?
even as also I am
Even with the best of intentions of everyone around the circle to get it right, somehow there's a little bit that gets lost bit by bit in translation, right?
But the greatest
Well, I found it interesting that what we know of as the Bible kind of came about in a similar fashion. Now, you see, what most people don't know is that the messages that are in the Bible, and particularly the New Testament, the accounts of Jesus Christ, weren't originally shared in Greek or Latin. They were shared in Aramaic, which is the commoner's language. It was the language of the streets. Now, let's put this into a little bit more perspective. Okay? So let's think about the language of the streets that we have now. Okay?
Even with the best
Without getting into gang slang, let's just talk a little bit just about texting, for example, and the short form that we have in our texts and our
Well, I
emails.
found it interesting that
Right? It's kind of like English, kind of. But in a way, it's almost a language unto itself, right?
what most people don't know.
And if you think about it, it's almost similar to Chinese, the characters of Chinese, where one character can represent almost a whole sentence or a whole paragraph of meaning. So what if every phrase in the Bible, every part of a sentence was kind of like that? What if every phrase was like a character that had a whole depth or sonnet or sutra or meaning? That's kind of like what the Aramaic was. So what happens then is you have an underlying meaning. You have a mystical meaning. You have a metaphorical meaning, not just a literal meaning.
But in a way, it's almost the language.
And so these were the things that I contemplated when I was going and preparing for tonight's sermon. You see, I didn't pick tonight's topic. Tonight's topic picked me. By virtue of the fact that I chose to do this month's sermon, every minister here that's part of UCM Alberta has an opportunity to do one of the months. And Dr. Richard Jelisich, who is the Reverend and is the charter holder for UCM Alberta, picked the topics, and so needless to say, this one became mine. And so I didn't enter into the planning of tonight's topic of conscious loving with any preconceptions whatsoever of what was going to come forward. And so what I decided to do was I decided to study the original Aramaic and to have that lead to what I'm going to share with you today. Now, what I need to tell you is that it was quite the ride. I have way more material than I could possibly give you in a 30-minute stint, and because of the sheer volume of what I'm going to be referencing, you guys will be getting a handout tonight. I wouldn't be me if I didn't do that. But what I hope I can give you is I hope I can give you enough of an overview that perhaps it will encourage you or give you a little bit more of a new appreciation of what gatherings like this can do to plant a single new thought or a single new seed that can make a whole difference to how you go through the rest of your week, the rest of your month, perhaps the rest of your life. So we'll just dive right in.
Now, what I need to tell you is that
when we look at conscious loving, I was looking at a number of different things, traits, states, and phases. And I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anyone here when you hear me say that because our English word love is just one word, and because we use it for so many different meanings that we've kind of warped it a little bit. We love ice cream and our work and our lifestyle and our parents and our kids and our lovers all with the same word. Not to mention the programming that we've received through the media, especially songs, that love is something at its core is something that we can't control. There's this preconception that somehow we're victimized by it, that ultimately it's either painfully unrequited or that it's something that carries us off into some kind of bliss or nirvana. Now don't get me wrong, it's both of those things. I've experienced both. And it's also so much more. All you have to do is Google love and you will find the breadth opinions on the topic. And you'll discover that we've come a long way from the gods and goddesses of love that were worshipped and were, in some cases, guiding the courses of love from Greece to the Romans and the Egyptians and the Sumerians and the Norsemen. But let's get past that. Let's get past this whole idea of traits. Because really, when we talk about that kind of love, it's about an affinity to, an affinity for, an attraction to, an affection for particular traits that we see in someone or something that's appealing to us. Let's dig a little bit deeper What I'm asking is for each one of us to fully enter into something that the Jewish call
And you'll
midrash,
discover that we've come a long
or that the
way from
Sufis
the
call
godly
tawhid.
of love that
And I'd like to ask you
in some cases
to do that, because what it is it's when someone attempts through contemplation to expand the scriptural passage of understanding to living it and experiencing it in the day-to-day. What it can be, what it can truly is meant to be, and that it's practical. It's practical for the challenges of the present. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ultimately go back to the original language that has seeded so many religions and so many worldviews, and just ask you to catch a glimpse of something bigger, something that brings us into the sheer mystery and the breadth and the depth of what truly is love.
And I'd like to ask you.
So shortly, I'm going to be asking Sarah to give you a handout, but before she does, I'm going to segue into the other half of our conversation for tonight, and that is what we mean by the concept of consciousness, because after all, tonight's topic is conscious loving. And I'm going to ask rhetorically for a moment, do any of us really know what we mean when we use the word
So what I'm going to do is
conscious?
I'm going to ultimately go back to the original
Because
language that I seeded.
if we think about it, it's kind of nebulous. It's almost as nebulous as the word love, right? In fact, it's kind of laughable to put the two words together. It's like you've got one broad spectrum word that is supposed to go together with another broad spectrum word, and somehow the two of them are actually supposed to make each other have more clarity somehow. So I'm going to ask you in the room that even if you're a little bit hard pressed to grasp it, just to perk on it a little bit. Because I have about 15 minutes left, and how on earth in 15 minutes am I going to honor such a broad topic and give you something practical to walk away with? If love is more than just an affinity for traits, how do we make something so big and so abstract? Well, for me, anytime I coach or anytime I work with people, I use metaphors. It's not always completely accurate, but it's enough of a guide that it'll give you something to perk on. And so I've asked you to think about this next one and see if the idea fits for you.
So I'm going to ask you in the room that even if you're a little bit hard pressed to grasp it,
Before I do that, I'm going to ask you to just think for a moment what consciousness means to you. Just take a deep breath in and out.
If love is more than just an affinity for traits, how do we make something so big and so abstract?
Now that you've had some time to think about it,
Well, for me,
I'm going to ask another question. You don't have to answer me. Just answer yourself.
it's not always
When you thought about the word conscious, did you perceive it as a level or a result or something that you needed
I've
to
asked you
attain?
to think about this next one and see if the idea fits for you.
Because we do that with our language, don't we? We talk about becoming more conscious, or that someone is less conscious, or that they aren't conscious or awake or aware enough yet. Okay? Now, if you did that, I want to encourage you, please not judge yourself. Okay? We've all done it. And part of it is because we don't quite know yet how to language this nebulous transition that we're all in right now. The world is radically different than it was 25 years ago. And we're still learning the most honoring way to talk about consciousness, to talk about something in a way that's compassionate.
We do that with our language.
After all, how do you talk, if you're in a pitch, how do you talk about water? How do you explain water to another fish? It's virtually, it's almost an impossibility. So I'm going to give you the image of a carpenter. Okay? Now, a carpenter is going to use a series of tools to carve a table. And that carpenter could be a novice or that carpenter could be a master. They're going to use the same tools. Now, granted, a master carpenter will probably use a tool that's more sophisticated. But the tool that they're going to use is the tool. They're not going to use a hammer where they need to use a chisel. They're not going to use a chisel where they need to use a plane. Right? So there will be a difference in the way that tool is used. And a novice is going to use that tool very differently from the way a master craftsman is going to use the tool. I want to encourage you that it's the same thing with everything else. It's the same thing with every other life skill that we are here on this planet to learn. There's not only a degree of proficiency with using the tool, there's a fluency. There's a way of describing how to use the tool.
Now granted, a master
Sarah, if you could
will probably use a tool that's more sophisticated.
So this is a two-sided one. There's tons of information here. Don't get too overblown by it. We're going to look at this side first.
So there will be a difference in the way that tool itself is used. And a novice is going to use that tool very differently from the way a master craftsman is used. I want to encourage you that it's the same thing with everything else. It's the same thing with every other life skill that we There's not only a degree of proficiency with using the tool, there's a fluency, a way of describing how.
So here you have in front of you, on the left-hand side of the page, a summary that comes out of doing a traditional Bible study. And that traditional Bible study is centered around the Greeks' interpretation of love. Okay? Now, we don't have time to go into any of these aspects in any kind of detail, which is why I've summarized them for you here. But what I want to do instead is I want to draw your attention to the structure itself. Okay? The actual way that it's lined up. As you scan the list, can you see how each aspect along the left-hand side isn't so much based in an affinity to or an attraction to or an affection for a particular kind of trait? Each one is instead what we call a state. Now, what do I mean by that? A state is a condition of mind, of feeling, or of being. It's a way of describing a person's experience or response to a certain set of causes or circumstances or surroundings. In other words, a state is a stage or a level to be reached, and it's part of a larger progression, to be sure. But what if we were to look at love, or the states of love, instead of as levels to be attained? What if we were to look at them as all the different tools, just like a carpenter would have a number of different tools that he would use to build a table? In other words, all the tools we need to learn to have a full experience. All the tools that have the best means possible to navigate the task at hand, or in this case, all the states of love, to have the best means possible to navigate the shifts and the changes that are in our lives. So those different states of love, then, aren't just stages in linear progression. They aren't just different learnings appropriate to different purposes. What they are is there different aspects of learning, and that what makes it conscious or not isn't just attaining the level. It's about being able to move through all the stages with ease. It's about being able to access all the stages.
all the tools
as you
that have the
want
best
to access them,
possible
when you want to access them.
can, or in this case, all the
Now, I
tools
know that the whole idea of
that have the
using
best
love as a tool
possible
might cause the hair on the back of some of your necks to prickle up. And I just want you to just play with the metaphor. I'm not actually going in that direction. I'm not proposing that kind of utilitarian thing. What I'm simply suggesting is that consciousness is not a level to be attained.
And that what makes it conscious or not,
Consciousness is not a level to be attained.
it's about being able to move
Instead, consciousness is a movement. It's like the swinging of a pendulum, accessing all the experiences in the spectrum,
as you want.
wherever and whenever they're needed. As they're needed.
Now, I know that the whole idea of
Swinging back and forth through them repeatedly as many times as necessary,
hair on the back of someone who asks to go up.
and then landing quietly and serenely into the center, resting in the knowledge of all of it,
I'm not proposing
and
that.
not at the exclusion of anything.
What I'm simply suggesting is that consciousness is not a
Does what
level.
I'm saying make any sense? Yes.
Consciousness is not a level to be attained.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is a willingness and there is an availability to that movement. And actually that's where,
All the experiences.
yes. And I'm actually heading in that direction, so thank you so much for that, because it'll segue right into the very next piece.
Swinging back and forth through them repeatedly as many times
So,
as necessary.
those stages, if you will, are like beats in music. And any of us who know and have experienced music is it's not just the beats, it's not just the notes, it's what happens in between the notes. It's the pauses, it's the energy that happens between the notes. So then the question, this all begs the question, that if those are the stages, if those are the states, how do we do that movement? How do we actually move through those states and those stages? What does that look like? And that's where we're going to look at the next piece, which is the other side. This is love according to the Aramaic. And the Aramaic is very much about phases. Now listen to this. This is the definition of a phase. A phase is a stage or state in change or development. Okay? It's a facet. It's a piece of the diamond or a larger synchronous movement. Think about how we use the word phase. We phase something in, we phase something out. Okay, something is in phase or in sync. Something is out of phase or out of sync. Think about how we talk about children or teenagers or sometimes adults. They're just going through a phase. Right? There's a sense that it's temporary or that it's part of something that's gradual. It's a bigger process. It's like a metamorphosis, that something deeper or more important is going on. It happens in a matter of degrees. There's also a sense, though, that what's seen or experienced in that moment is distinct. It can be pointed to like phases of the moon. Or it can be pointed to like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. So let's take a closer look at the phases of love that are on there. It starts with the seed that receives whatever its needs as it's needed. And then within the compassionate environment of the womb, rises up into an embodiment of that same compassion. And then just like a snake, it peels off its skin
There's
and regenerates,
also a
the
sense,
cycle
though, that what's seen
begins.
or experienced in that moment is distinct.
It takes that process of expression and integration a step further. So what's important to know here is that the Aramaic is cyclical. The phases are sequential, they're recurring, just like the rhythms of our life on this planet. Just as day follows night, time comes in, time comes out. We breathe in,
within the
compassionate
environment of the womb,
and the beating of
rises
our
up into
hearts.
the embodiment of that same compassion.
So I think what attracts me most about this whole idea of phases is the divine order about it. It's like whatever is needed is available as it's needed. Just like the caterpillar becoming the butterfly or the acorn becoming the ash tree, there's never any fear
So
that what will be
what's
needed will
important to
appear or
note
not.
here is that the Aramaic is
There's just a sense of availability.
the phases are sequential, they're recurring.
The caterpillar or the acorn just goes about his business and makes himself available for whatever it is
Day
he's to
follows
receive
night,
next.
cycles in, cycles out.
It's an abundance principle that sets the tone from the very beginning that no matter what is in motion, it will be provided for. That no matter what, it never fails.
The divine order about it.
Sounds
Like
familiar?
whatever is needed is available as it's needed.
In 1 Corinthians 13, the scripture that we opened up with, that Greg spoke to, it speaks to what we know or what we think we know, that shell of knowing,
There's just a sense of availability.
will ultimately fall away.
The caterpillar
Prophecies
or the
shall
acorn
cease.
just goes about its business.
Tongues shall
Makes
be
himself
silenced,
available
and knowledge
for whatever it is.
will be nothing.
Hmm.
How well can we handle change when everything we thought we knew and trusted
That no matter what is in
when
motion,
the new information that you receive, just like that seed
but
receives
no matter what,
heat from the sun, nutrients from the soil, water, that seed becomes something it's never been before. The shell breaks away and you become a new being. What will you be thinking or feeling when you receive that new information? Most of all, when everything that is happening not only around you, but in you,
prophecies shall
is changing. What can you trust in then? What can you believe in? Because you are that seed, and you are changing into something and someone you've never been before.
When the new information that you receive,
What then? Will you allow yourself to be like that seed, or will you push away that new information as it's coming to you?
that seed becomes
Because what happens if that seed says no to water or says no to the nutrients? If it's not shifting and changing, it's dying.
when you receive that new information.
So I invite you,
With everything that
as Eileen is
not only
moving into playing into the musical meditation for tonight,
what can you trust
I would just ask each
what can you believe in?
and everyone,
You are that seed, and you are changing.
empty yourself out into the darkness.
Never been.
Just stay in the warmth of the sun. Allow the water and the nutrients to come to you and let them work their magic and show you a new way of being. Give yourself permission to devote yourself to the most sacred of paths. And that path is discovering what it means to live a life of harmlessness and compassion, and to love you, to love all of you. this is the love that Jesus talks about. This is the love that is shown us through the Aramaic. And this is the love that isn't about traits, it isn't about results, and it isn't about a predetermined outlook of what we think we can create. With our limited perceptions of what's possible or even probable. This is a love that embraces every piece of you, every step, every experience. This is what Jesus meant by I am the way, the truth, and the life. The I am is the opening of who you really are. That is the way, that is the truth, and that is your life, should you choose it. And love is the only way to bring us simply and profoundly into that state of presence. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you for the next 5 minutes as I leave place to ask yourself, how do I want to more consciously love? How do I want to more consciously love me? Every piece of me and every piece of my life. Open up that gateway to expressing unconditional love and passion. Again.
And love is the only way to bring us simply and profoundly into that state of presence. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you for the next 5 minutes as I
awareness back to the room. When you're ready, your eyes. Jesus said to us that we should love one another. There's a lot of ways to do that. I think one of the best ways that we can love not just the people who are right next door to us, but those on the other side of the world, the people we've never met, is through prayer. Praying for somebody else is a selfless act of love. They don't even know you've necessarily done it. You're not doing it for social recognition, to feel better. It's pure love. And so at this time, I'd like you to close your eyes and to visualize a person that you may know is in need of healing, a condition in the world that needs healing. And as you hold that person or condition in your mind, don't see them as ill or hurting, but visualize them instead as whole and complete and vibrant.
A lot of ways to do that.
That's the image, the energy.
I think one of the best ways that we can love not just the people who are right
Great Spirit Creator, Mother, Father,
on the
God,
other side of the world, the people we've never
we've
met.
come together in fellowship.
Praying
Fellowship
for somebody else
those
is
here
selfless
present,
act of love.
and our fellowship with all levels of creation.
We're not doing it.
And we ask you to send the angels, the archangels, the healers of all the directions, to the places and people and things in this world that are in need of healing, whether it's healing of the body, the mind, of the soul. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is that they need, in accordance with their free will, with their mission, and with their karma. Today we want to ask you to look down upon the people of the Ukraine and the people of Syria, people who are suffering terribly with war, with destruction. Bring them once again to the peace of your love and your light. We ask for healing for our Mother the Earth, for her waters and for her air, for all of our relations, the four-legged, the winged ones, the swimmers, the crawlers, tall, standing people, the trees. So much injury and so much suffering goes on every single day. And we ask that everything be restored to health and balance. And we ask you to listen to the prayers within each person's heart today. And I would ask those people here present, if there is someone in particular you'd like to be included in these prayers, feel free to say their name out loud.
People who are suffering
If you don't want to do that, that's okay too. Just hold that vision of them healthy,
bring them once
happy,
again
and
to the
vibrant.
peace of your love and your life.
Creator, you know the prayers that are on our lips, and you know more importantly the prayer that is within our hearts. We thank you for this healing, for we know it is already
for all of
done.
our relations,
As it is said,
the four-legged,
it is
the
complete.
winged ones, the swimmers, the crawlers, strong, standing people, the trees. So much injury and so much suffering goes on every single day. And we ask that everything be restored to health and balance. And we ask you to listen to the prayers within each person's heart today. And I would ask those people here present, if there are so many particular you'd like to be included in these prayers, feel free to say their name out loud.
Done a book study on the first Wednesday of the month. We found that we haven't had the interest that we had thought we would have. So we're just going to put it on the shelf for a little while. So just that if you were planning on coming in 2 weeks,
thank you for this
maybe
healing,
the book
because I
study
know it is
is
already
been shelved for a little while. We'll try it again. I also wanted to say that on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month, we have spiritual healings here. And there's students of Reverend Jelicich's Healers Training course. So we do a twice a month set up tables in here. We have students. I facilitate. If Dr. Jelicich is in town, he facilitates. and we have graduates come, and we do energy balancing and spiritual healing. So if you're interested, it's a very little donation, I guess you would say, and come and have some work done. I'd be really honored to see you. Thank you.
Tomorrow night.
Oh, right, tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we're here. Tomorrow night is Introduction to Spiritual Healing. It is a workshop that Dr. Jelicic offers at least 2 or 3 times a year, and it gives an understanding of what your spiritual nature is, and that connect you to your higher self, but also to your abilities that you may not realize that you have. And he gives tips and feedback on helping you as a beautiful spiritual being find your personal power and growth and empowerment. So if you're interested, it's $20, and we will be here at 7 o'clock tonight.
And free healings this weekend.
And free healings this weekend at our new venue in the Northeast in Trans-Canada Mall. It's called Families Matter. And from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we offer free healings there as well. So if you're in the Northeast and you're interested in coming out and finding out what the work is that Dr. Jelicic does, and meet some of his graduates and some of his students, we'd love to see you there. Again, it's between 2 and 4 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday in the Trans-Canada Mall, which is on 16th Avenue Northeast, and it's called Family Matters is the building. Thank you. And I would just like to add that has some CDs at the back, and if any of you are interested further in the work that Ina does as an accompanist for events, as well as the concerts that she does, and she's now doing some beautiful community building work through music. There's a list at the very front that you can sign up with your email, and I would be glad to receive that. Is there anything that you would like to add to that, or did I hit all the highlights? Okay, good. All right. Well, you will notice now that the next item that is in your bulletin indicates that there's space in the program for what we call messages from spirit. Now, in the old-time spiritualist churches, there would have been milk stools at the back, and as people entered, they were given opportunity to sit on those stools, much like what happened this evening. And the ministers would spend a couple of minutes with each person, allowing the energy to flow through, and if they felt, to give any sort of a message that they received. Now, sometimes as well, if something particularly resonates in the service, or if there's someone in the audience that stands out energetically to one of the ministers, what happens is this is an opportunity for them to give some additional focus and some time. The format is very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to sit for just a few moments. The ministers are going to tune in. What will happen is that as any one of them feel led, they will come to the front. Messages may be to an individual here, or they may be to the whole group. You will be given the question that will be asked. We'll be asking permission first. Okay? So they will say, I'm receiving something for you, may I come to you? And you have the choice to say yes you may, or you may say yes you may, but I would like to receive it privately at the back. Okay, you have that choice. So you can either say yes please, or I would like to receive it at the back of the room, unless you decide to say no, which we haven't had that happen yet, but I guess somebody might say no. But I guess the point that I want to make is that you do have a choice. So the messages will be no more than about 2 minutes in duration or less, and the minister will end by saying, I leave you in light and love with that. Okay? So now I'm going to open up the floor for some silent tuning in, and I would ask that we just center ourselves, that we focus our energies as above, as so below, circulating our breath in and out. So, in again, and out, and that we just allow whatever there is for us to merge.
So the messages will be no more than about 2 minutes in duration or less, and the minister will end by saying, I leave you in light and love. So now I'm going to open up the floor for some silent tuning in, and I would ask that we just center ourselves, that we focus our energies as above, as so below, circulating our breath in and out.
This is more of a group message. Some of you heard it from me already this evening. But it applies to many of us, and that's about self-doubt. We are all luminous beings of light and love, connected at all moments with the Creator, with everything that is in existence. You need, each and every one of you, to honor that inner higher self. Don't let society's expectations, the sales job that they try to give you, take you away from your truth. Because I can feel that there are several people in this room, myself included, who frequently doubts ourselves. And we second guess ourselves, and we talk ourselves out of what we know within. And so my message is to trust the inner knower. Be one with Spirit and move forward based on that truth. Thank you.
We are all luminous beings of light and light, connected at all moments with the Creator, with everything that is in existence. You need, each and every one of you, to honor that inner higher self. Don't let society's expectations, the sales job that they try to give you, take you away from your truth. Because
you're really in trouble when I put the stole on.
Myself included. We frequently doubt ourselves. And
I had
we
a teacher
second guess ourselves.
who said nothing changes you so much as when you put on the robes.
And so my message is trust the inner man.
And when I first started getting messages back in late 1991, there would be times when I would be standing here as a student minister, and I would give like 5 or 6 messages, because in those days we were going all night. I'd turn around and I'd look at some of the senior ministers like, well, do you want to, take over and give some messages? And they'd go, we're right behind you. We're right behind you. I was like, oh, okay. So I gently nudged the minister next to me this evening, because I knew he had a message.
You're really in trouble when I put the store on.
But it's part of the prerogative of holding the charter. May I come to you, sir? Teacher back. What's your name?
He said nothing changes
Matthew?
you so much as when you put on the robe.
Matthew 6:22.
And
For the light is in the body.
Messages
If thine eye be single,
back in late
then thy body is full of light. And it's talking about how we allow that light to come forth from within ourselves.
Like 5 or 6 messages.
Not everyone is aware of what chakras are, but they are the transducers of that light that comes into this dimension, in your case here, in the heart. So now, in this moment, in this evening, my message to you is about allowing yourself to be very fragile and gentle. But fragile doesn't mean weak. Fragile, if you look at a butterfly or the hummingbird, they're very strong little beings. But we think they're fragile when in fact they're not. So your great strength right now as Matthew is holding the light, is being in that fragile and very open state in your heart for what is to come.
And my body
I'll
is
leave
full
your
of
mind
light.
with that and say, bless you, thank
And
you.
it's talking about how
And come to you, Aaron.
we allow that light to come forth from within ourselves. Not everyone is aware.
There's an old saying, I don't remember where I've heard it,
They are
but it has to do with the yogi,
the
the swami, the guru, any man or woman who takes the role of teacher.
Moment in this evening, my message
And that
to
when
you
they come to a village
is about
to impart their wisdom and their
to be very
teachings,
fragile.
that if in fact that village is not
Fragile
receptive
doesn't mean weak.
to those
Fragile,
teachings,
if you look at a
the
butterfly
guru shakes the
or a
dust
hummingbird, they're
off
very
their
strong
sandals
little
and
beings.
they go to another
But we
village
think
that is
they're fragile,
receptive.
when in fact they're not.
So my message to you
Your great strength
is to,
right now, as Matthew, is
when you're
holding
looking
light
inside in your daily meditations,
being that
ask
fragile
yourself,
and very
where is your
focused
energy going right
in
now?
your heart.
Where are your thoughts, your energy, your will, your actions going? And it could be
Can I come to you, Aaron?
that there may be some non-receptivity in other people. And it may be time to
I
just
don't remember
leave
where
that
I heard
alone
it.
for a while and
It
not
has
keep
to do with
pushing on it to
the
make it
yogi,
happen,
the swami,
or rather say,
guru,
well, okay, I'll come back to this
man or
village
woman
later.
who takes the role of
It'll save you a lot of time, a lot of trouble.
and that when they come to a village to
And you,
impart
ma'am,
their
what's your
wisdom
name?
and their teachings,
Joey,
that if in
may I
fact
come
that
to you?
village does not accept it,
This chakra here, the one below the belt, is
The
called the
guru
second chakra. It's
shakes
called
the dust
Sadhisthana.
off their
And
sandals
where a
and they go to
chakra is
another
doesn't
village.
matter whether it's higher or lower, it doesn't make a
And
difference.
my message to you
But the second chakra
is
is the one that has a lot to do with one's
when you're looking
passions,
inside in your
creativity.
daily
It's the
meditations,
visceral
ask yourself,
chakra. It's
where is
the
your energy
kind of
going?
like the salsa of what it is to
Where are
be
your
a human being.
your energy, your
And
will, your actions
I
going.
used to work with
It could
this
be
reverend
that there may be
who was a
some
very flamboyant man. And
non-receptivity.
he was a very big
of
man,
other
and he
people.
wore all these robes
And
and
it may
these
be time
jewels and
to
everything.
just
And he was
leave
just
that
out
alone
there, and he
and
didn't
not
have a
keep
care
pushing on it.
how the
Make it
people
happen.
thought of him, because
Rather
he
say,
was
well, okay,
very
I'll come back to
sincere and
this
gentle
later.
in his heart.
We'll say
And
that
for
I'll
you
come
as
back.
Joey now is to be flamboyant. And I don't mean go do something crazy, but I mean something in your heart
May I come to you?
that expresses you in a very
This chakra
joyous
here,
way.
the one below
Like,
the belt, is
why
called
are you
the
wearing
second
that
chakra.
pendant
It's
today? Well,
called
because I
Sadhisthana.
felt like it. Or why are you wearing a
And
green
where
sock and a
chakra
yellow
is,
sock?
doesn't
Well,
matter
because
whether
that's
it's
what I
higher or
feel
lower,
like
it
today.
doesn't make a difference.
So for
But the
you
second
now,
chakra
in this
is the one
time,
that has a lot to
is
do
a
with
kind of
one's
a
passions,
loving but flamboyant
creativity,
act
the
of
visceral
passion
chakra,
that satisfies how you
kinda like
feel
the salsa,
uniquely
what it
as
is to be
creative.
a human being.
Okay, and I'll leave you alone with that.
And,
Say bless you. Thank you.
With this reverend, who was a very flamboyant man, and he was a very big man, and he wore all these robes and these jewels and everything, and he was just out there. He didn't have a care how the people thought of him, because he was very sincere and gentle in his heart. And for you as Joey now is to be flamboyant. And I don't mean go do something crazy, but I mean something in your heart that expresses you in a very joyous way. Like, why are you wearing that pendant today? Well, because I felt like it. Or why are you wearing a green sock and a yellow sock? Well, because that's what I feel like today. So for you now, in this time, is a kind of a loving but flamboyant act of passion that satisfies how you feel uniquely as creative. Okay? And I'll leave you alone. Okay? Say bless you and thank you.
May I come to you? You're in a really good place right now. But you're questioning the power that you have to step into a There's something new. There's a new, I don't know if it's a job or a career or there's something that's, okay? I just really want to share with you that power that you have inside yourself, just need to ground it. Okay? Take it into the ground. Because our tendency is to hold our energy up here, right? And when you ground that energy, that makes you more powerful. That takes you into that place of making a clear choice about what is in your highest good. Does that make sense? Good. Maybe you can like above that.
Power that you have. Step into the new. Something new. Just really want to share with you that power that you have inside yourself.
You're pushing yourself really hard.
Take it into the ground.
Okay. The big thing that's coming up is rest. You need to give yourself some rest. Find yourself. What is nurturing? Whatever is nurturing to Eileen, allow yourself to give yourself that. I think there's a perception that maybe if you do that it's fluffy or that it's or that it's not as important as the things that you're moving towards and you're driving towards. It's kind of like putting on the oxygen mask. If you don't give yourself that oxygen, then it's just going to deplete you. Allow yourself to step into that nurturing space because it will give you nothing but strength for what's coming up. Okay? Maybe the light above with that.
The big thing that's coming up is rest. You need to give yourself some rest. Find yourself. What is nurturing? Whatever is nurturing to Arnie, allow yourself to give yourself that. I think there's a perception that maybe if you do that it's fluffy or that it's not as important as the things that you're moving towards and you're driving towards. It's kind of like putting on the oxygen mask.
We haven't talked about
If you don't give yourself that oxygen, then it's just going to deplete you.
at risk of sounding a little firm, you haven't been doing your work.
Because it will give you nothing but strength.
So that whole thing about allowing yourself time to mourn, allowing yourself time to grieve, and letting those pieces go still needs to happen. Yourself a couple hours, go for a walk, whatever it is that you need to do to just allow yourself time to honor that you were in fear for a time, that you were afraid, that you were mourning, okay? Because if you just continue to move forward and drive forward and sweep that over, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass, okay? So that's just what's coming forward is just, you know what to do, just fucking do it.
So that whole thing about allowing yourself time to learn, allowing yourself
Thank you, everyone. Please take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And I would like to ask Greg to come up to read the final closing scripture, please.
As translated by Neil Douglas Coach from the Aromatic. Kindle, feeling slowly, For that which feels excessive, out of proportion with your living. Let the germ of love break gradually through the shell of pride that separate you from another, from you, and from another yours. The husk become kindling for a fire of new birth, in which two become one, knowing one behind all. Use this seclusion to retreat to the surface of your image. Use the force to bend toward your own deepest self.
As we wrap up this evening, I'm going to speak and just to that scripture. But what I would like to do first is just call upon for a love offering for tonight. This space has been gifted to us. And everything that we do here is volunteer for us. So those funds will go towards supporting further gatherings like this. Okay. So I would just ask us to center in, and Sarah, if you could please ask it. Thank you.
Use the seclusion to retreat to the surface of your image. Use the force to bend toward your own deepest self.
As we wrap up this evening, I'm going to speak and just to that scripture. What I would like to do first is just call upon our love offering. This space has been gifted to us, and everything that we do here is volunteer. So those funds will go towards supporting further gatherings like this. And we just ask us to center in and refer to this.
We give gratitude for the means. We give gratitude for just being able to freely meet and freely gather without persecution, in the light of love, in a way that is about growth, is a way about honoring the truth of each one. We give gratitude for these gifts and the means to do it again and again and again. We ask to receive this in the light of spirit and the light of unity of each and every one here. Amen. The closing scripture spoke of loving or uniting with the enemy, and how moving into that creates a new rhythm. And that closing prayer was actually another Aramaic translation of Luke chapter 6, verse 27, that asks us to love our enemies, particularly the enemy within. So with all this that's been shared this evening in perspective, the whole idea of loving more consciously takes on a whole new meaning, doesn't it? So for the remainder of this evening, as we drive back home and we move on into the rest of our week and into the weekend, I leave you with one question. How much differently will we move through our lives now? How much differently will we move forward with the whole idea that consciousness is a level to be attained, but that it's movement, and simply being able to access all the stages as we wish to access those stages as we need them, and that everything is provided for our growth if we only open ourselves up to receiving it.
So with all this bullshit that's
allow yourself to truly receive. to truly be like that seed and increase your availability. Allow it to gestate into a life of unconditional love and harmlessness and compassion. Learn to release what no longer serves you and to step into that darkness of the unknown, knowing that you will be provided for and that love never fails. Receive that now, that is uniquely meant for you and your life to come to you as your birthright, with more grace, compassion, and clarity. Namaste.
Namaste.
Typically when we close for the evening, we close and gather in a circle. If that's not comfortable for you, feel free to stay where you are, but we're now going to gather in a circle and we're going to hold hands, and Anne-Marie will lead us in a final prayer for this evening. Well, it's going to be an old one. I think we're good. Let's just back that one up. Let's back ourselves up. I'll sit down here. All right, Anne-Marie.
Great Spirit Creator, Mother, Father, God, we thank you for this time and this place. We thank you for the blessing of gathering in community with like-minded people. And we thank you for the beautiful music that has moved our souls tonight. As we go forward from this gathering out into the world, we ask that as we gaze upon each other, may our eyes truly see one another. And as we listen to people, may our ears truly hear one another. That our hearts may truly hold one another. And in this way, we may be your instruments of light, love, and healing in this world.
Great, great,